Bueno traders, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a lo que es un nuevo video para el canal de YouTube. En esta oportunidad vamos a estar reaccionando a una de las entrevistas que personalmente considero muy importantes de Mark Douglas. Así que vamos a estar viendo básicamente esta entrevista, vamos a estar revisando los puntos más importantes y si consideras que este tipo de contenido es de tu agrado y te gustaría ver un contenido similar donde podamos estar quizás analizando o reaccionando a distintos contenidos que tengan que ver con trading, déjamelo saber por favor en los comentarios para que de esa forma yo poder saber y continuar creando este tipo de contenido. Con eso dicho, cabe recalcar que esta es la parte número 1. Va a haber una segunda parte para que el video no sea tan extenso. Así que nada, vamos a comenzar y vamos a ver qué tenemos para ver en este video. Vamos.
Let's get started. First of all, one of the main issues that I see all the time is that people don't use their method to its full potential. In other words, there's a negative correlation between what the trader ends up with and what he could have had if he just followed his methodology. In your DVD program, you refer to this as the profit gap. This is a problem. You refer to it as the profit gap. And I think it's one of the least...
Bueno, acá inicialmente lo que comenta el entrevistador, en este caso que está con Mark Douglas, están comentando algo súper importante y algo que suele suceder mucho en el día a día a las distintas personas que estamos avanzando en este mundo del trading, que viene siendo el potencial del sistema versus lo que la persona como trader finalmente termina consiguiendo con el sistema. O sea que básicamente hay una brecha entre lo que realmente el sistema te puede entregar versus lo que finalmente el trader o la persona termina consiguiendo con el sistema. Hay una brecha. Podría ser más eficiente y esto es lo que vamos a ver a continuación.
Understood concepts of trading. Can you address this a little bit? This profit gap?
Yeah, that's actually a really good place to start because I think that more than anything, what your viewers want or what your customers want are consistent results. They want to be able to produce an income that that they can rely on from their trading, and I'm sure that many of your viewers have already realized that getting a steady income is not such an easy task.
And everyone seems to get trapped thinking that because trading is easy. Right. Or because it's easy to find yourself in a winning trade, exactly. Which many people do.
Right.
That they think it's also easy to become a consistent winner.
Right.
And it took a long time before it actually dawned on me that winning and being a consistent winner are two completely different animals, two different things.
Bueno, acá lo que comentan ellos es justamente la diferencia entre una operación ganadora y resultados consistentes. Donde básicamente una operación ganadora cualquier persona la puede tener, lleve 2 días haciendo trading o lleve 10 años, solamente con apretar un botón cualquiera puede tener una operación ganadora. Pero donde realmente se produce la dificultad del trading es la consistencia teniendo esas operaciones ganadoras. Ahí es donde realmente está la dificultad, porque abrir o cerrar operaciones yo creo que cualquier persona lo puede hacer, pero el desarrollar los resultados consistentes en base a tu sistema y en base a seguir lo que son tus reglas, es allí donde está la verdadera dificultad, digamos, del trading.
And in some ways, there isn't even a relationship between the two.
It almost seems like there's no relationship between the two.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real hard mental barrier to break through. Mainly because, it's so easy to find yourself in a winning trade because winning actually requires no skill at all. In other words, unless you consider that, the being able to click a mouse button or, tap a pad is a skill. And we don't have to have a reason or good reason or even actually any reason to put your cursor on the buy or sell button and then immediately find ourselves in a winning trade. And it could be a monster of a winning trade. And what did it take? What kind of skills did it take to actually experience this? Absolutely none.
Yeah. So it'd be natural to take the leap from, well, if it's this easy to win, it can't be that much harder to make a steady income. Like you said, it's that easy to click the mouse for me to sit there and make $5,000 or $10,000, then it must be pretty darn easy for me to sit there and make a living out of this. And that's what I thought for a long time, but that is not the case.
No, and that's exactly how I started out too. And I know, not unlike a lot of other people who are willing to, let's say, give up a real high-paying career to be a trader because they thought it couldn't be that hard.
So what makes consistency so challenging? What's the big hurdle there?
Well, we're gonna get into that, but at the most general level, I'm gonna say that it requires learning the type of skills that people just simply aren't used to learning.
Miren, acá entramos en un tema muy fundamental, creo yo, la introducción de lo que llevamos de video, donde, claro, básicamente están exponiendo que las habilidades mentales que tiene que desarrollar un trader son habilidades especiales, son habilidades que, digamos, el común o el normal de las personas cuando iniciamos en este mundo son habilidades que realmente no tenemos, ¿ya? Por distintos motivos, porque quizás nunca hemos estado preparados para gestionar dinero, para trabajar con dinero, para tener un desapego también al momento de trabajar con dinero, para ver quizás las probabilidades en nuestra vida, para ver muchas cosas que tenemos que ir implementando a lo largo de nuestra carrera para al final de cierto periodo comenzar a desarrollar un resultado. El sentarse en una pantalla, sentarse en un celular, en un computador y apretar un botón o darle clic al mouse para abrir una operación como comentan ellos, eso realmente cualquier persona lo puede hacer. Ya, como te digo, o sea, cualquier persona hoy en día puede descargar el MetaTrader 4 y meter una operación de compra. Y le puede salir positivo o le puede salir negativo. Pero llevar eso a una consistencia para realmente vivir de esto, ahí está el verdadero desafío, y eso es lo que vamos a estar viendo a continuación. Habilidades mentales.
Mental skills, yeah, exactly. In other words, it requires mental skills. Most people assume that because their technical method gives them a signal to get into a trade, that if the method produces a high percentage of winners, it will equate to a consistent income, not taking into consideration that the proper execution of those signals requires mental skills.
Give us an example of this.
Well, take for an example, a high school basketball player who, he'll go in the gym and practice throwing his free throws, maybe for even 2 or 3 hours a day. It wouldn't be unusual for him to be able to hit 50 in a row, would it? I mean, that's
You
not
see that all the
out of the
time.
realm of reality, right? Okay, so the problem is that could he even hit 2 in a row if the circumstances were he was in the final game of the NCAA championship, his team is down 1 point, there's only a few seconds left on the clock, and he was just fouled.
Changes everything.
Yeah, under those circumstances, without the appropriate mental skills, hitting either one of those free throws is very unlikely. And regardless of how well someone could do it in practice, most people would choke.
So really the skills you're referring to.
Bien, acá tocó un ejemplo también muy importante, Mark Douglas, acerca de un jugador de básquet, ¿cierto? Un jugador de baloncesto que está acostumbrado a practicar muchas veces un tiro en la práctica. Supongamos que practica más de 100 veces el tiro durante la práctica de la semana, pero al momento de estar sometido a una situación, por ejemplo de finales donde quedan pocos segundos, y el estar sometido a otra situación en particular, ahí es donde entran las habilidades mentales para justamente el basquetbolista pueda, digamos, ejecutar de la mejor forma todo lo que ha estado practicando, porque no es la misma presión mental, digamos, el hecho de estar solamente lanzando al momento de practicar. No va a ser la misma presión mental que va a estar teniendo el basquetbolista al momento de estar jugando un juego en vivo y obviamente de estar en una final y quizás estar también en un punto decisivo. Eso marca mucho la diferencia. Entonces, si un jugador quizás no está, un jugador de elite, si no está al 100% preparado mentalmente para ese tipo de situaciones, los mismos tiros que quizás tiende a encestar en la práctica, al estar en una situación de alta presión, puede que los tienda a fallar. Y lo mismo pasa con el trader, o sea, muchas veces ponemos en perspectiva lo que es nuestro backtesting. Decimos que nuestro sistema cumple con cierto win rate, cumple con ciertas efectividades de ganancia, pero al momento de ponerlo en práctica fallamos, y al momento de ponerlo en práctica no llegamos ni siquiera quizá a la mitad del beneficio que estábamos obteniendo en el backtesting. Y eso es justamente porque al momento de la ejecución las habilidades mentales entran en juego, como dice en este caso Mar Douglas.
To what you're talking about, Mark, is actually staying focused on the process, staying positively focused on the process itself, in this case, of throwing the ball, in our case, obviously, of trading or following your method, right, and not being worried about blowing it, about the consequences of what could happen if this trade goes wrong.
Exactly right. Just like what I'm going through right now.
You're
trying
on
to stay
TV.
focused. Yeah, trying to stay focused on the process of this presentation and not blowing it.
Well, you're doing fantastic.
Anyway, you know, with training, we may have a technical method telling us what to do and giving us the potential to generate consistent results. But like the basketball player, without developing the appropriate mental skills, it's unlikely we'll be able to do what our method or trading plan is indicating without making a number of potential execution errors. In other words, to stay positively focused on the process of trading by doing exactly what we need to do, when we need to do it, without hesitation, reservation, or fear.
Netamente enfocado en el proceso, o sea, sabiendo lo que tenemos que hacer, siguiendo lo que son nuestras reglas, sin duda y sin miedo. Anoten esto, muchachos. Cuando hablamos de ir desarrollando ciertas habilidades mentales, acá Mar Douglas comenta algo fundamental. Si tenemos un plan, tenemos que ser capaces de poder seguir ese plan al pie de la letra, sin duda y sin miedo. O sea, sin dudar de nuestro sistema, sin dudar de nuestras entradas, y sin miedo a perder, sin miedo a que la operación se me vaya a ir a stop, etcétera, etcétera, etcétera. Básicamente dos factores que muchas veces son una gran piedra en el camino para muchas personas: la duda y el miedo. Y ejecutar muchas veces, y el ser capaz de comenzar a seguir tu plan de trading y ejecutar fríamente porque se está presentando ese setup, porque se está dando la oportunidad, y dejar correr los trades porque tú sabes que el trades tiene que llegar a ese objetivo y no cerrar antes de tiempo. Todas esas cosas al fin y al cabo terminan marcando la diferencia entre un resultado y otro, ¿vale? Este punto es muy importante. Traten de sacar algunos apuntes de esta sección.
So you see, no matter how good a technical method is at generating winning trades, turning those winners into a consistent income requires the ability to do or not do some things that the method itself can't help us with.
La persona tiene que tener la habilidad de hacer ciertas cosas o de no hacer ciertas cosas y el método como tal no puede ayudarnos. O sea, básicamente nosotros con un método, con un sistema, tenemos ciertas reglas, tenemos ciertas cosas, pero el momento de aplicar el plan de trading, el criterio muchas veces de la persona, lo que está viendo la persona, lo que está viendo el trader, va a diferir en un resultado y otro. Va a diferir entre si ese resultado termina siendo a fin de mes positivo, termina siendo quizás negativo o en break-even. Las decisiones que vamos tomando. Obviamente en relación con lo que es el sistema, pero básicamente las decisiones que vamos tomando, sean buenas o malas, al fin y al cabo van determinando el resultado de lo que es nuestro trading y el resultado de nuestro sistema, llevándolo a un mercado real o aplicándolo en el mercado real.
Not do some things that the method itself can't help us with. For example, our method can't force us to predefine the risk of getting into a trade. Or if we do predefine the risk, our method can't force us to take the loss that ends up turning into a bigger loss.
Right.
And you know, that's happened to everybody, okay? Our method can't prevent us from moving a stop closer to our entry point where we get stopped out and the market trades back in our favor. Our method can't prevent us from hesitating and getting in too late. Or our method can't stop us from jumping the gun and getting in too soon, where the signal to actually get in never really develops. And our method can't stop us from getting out of a winning trade too soon and leave money on the table. Nor can it prevent us from letting a winning trade turn into a losing trade without having taken any profit.
I know that all of our traders have
Bueno, acá, si se fijan, comentó varias cosas. Ahí vayan poniendo en pausa el video. Pero comentó varias cosas que normalmente tienden a suceder. Mover stop loss antes de tiempo, no predefinir el riesgo, no querer ingresar a una operación por miedo justamente a la operación. Distintos factores que yo creo que muchos de ustedes ya conocen de sobra. Y que al fin y al cabo todas esas cosas son decisiones. O sea, por más que tengamos un sistema muy bueno, que te haya entregado quizá un mentor, un sistema muy potente, Si tú no eres capaz mentalmente de primero que todo seguir las reglas y ser capaz de ejecutar de forma disciplinada, y comienzas a improvisar sobre lo que tienes, los resultados cambian totalmente. Ya dos personas distintas pueden tener el mismo sistema y con resultados totalmente distintos.
Experience these issues. I know they have, and I think really what you're saying is that the methodology, and this methodology, folks, what we're talking about when we say the word methodology is the wise trade software, that's our method. And it can give us winning trades. We've seen, I know all of you have had winning trades, but it cannot give us consistent results if we're susceptible to making the kind of mental errors that you're talking about
Right.
here. Okay?
Exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And all the mental errors I just listed are the result of thinking, a result of thinking, believing, or assuming that our technical method is telling us what's going to happen next on a trade-by-trade basis, and not understanding that technical methods aren't designed to do that. Technical methods and patterns are designed to put the odds of success in our favor over a series of trades.
Quito con esto. Los sistemas de trading están diseñados para poner las probabilidades a nuestro favor, para poner las probabilidades estadísticas a nuestro favor. Pero hay muchos factores que ya están fuera del sistema y es cuando entra el trader, la mentalidad, la persona que toma las decisiones. Y por eso es tan importante y lo que se nombra siempre trabajar al trader, trabajar a la persona, que tú estés bien mentalmente para tomar buenas decisiones.
It may not seem like it on the surface, but there's some profound psychological implications here. What this means is the outcome of the signals generated by any technical method on a trade-by-trade basis are unique and random. In other words, there's no way to know in advance what the outcome to any particular signal will be or what the sequence of wins or losses will be over a series of trades.
It's a mouthful. and I understand what you're saying. And I think, we need to, first of all, know that many of our viewers out there are experiencing the same sort of thing, okay? And they're probably going to have some trouble grasping this concept that by accepting the randomness of these outcomes, they can produce consistent results. That's an odd concept.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, Jared. I know it's somewhat of a paradox to think that events that have a random outcome can produce a consistent result, but think about it.
Resultados al azar que pueden producir resultados consistentes. Ojito con esto.
This is the principle that's been used by casinos for hundreds of years.
Right.
Technical methods and patterns will give the individual trader the same kind of advantage the casino has over the individual player. If the trader can think about it from the proper perspective. On the other hand, if a trader who has generated his signal from a technical method hasn't learned to integrate this principle, this randomness principle, into his trading regimen, he will undoubtedly find that trading can be one of the most frustrating, if not exasperating, endeavors he's ever chosen to undertake.
Importante, muchachos. Importante. Muchas veces nosotros queremos controlar todos los resultados en nuestro trading. Básicamente que todas las operaciones en lo posible salgan ganadoras. Si una operación sale perdedora nos frustramos. Si 3 operaciones salen perdedoras nos frustramos. Si no tenemos quizás las operaciones ganadoras que estamos buscando o en un mes o en una semana, nos frustramos. Pero es importante siempre tener claro que hay muchos eventos, y lo mismo en la vida, muchos eventos también con el trading que no podemos controlar. Y muchos eventos también que sí podemos controlar. Lo que nosotros podemos controlar en nuestro trading viene siendo dónde ingresamos al mercado, el riesgo que utilizamos, dónde colocamos el stop, dónde colocamos el take profit y todo eso. Pero ya viene la otra parte, como comenta Camardogla, como comentó recién, de los resultados aleatorios. O sea, tenemos un sistema que, si bien en base a resultados aleatorios, de igual forma nos puede entregar resultados consistentes. Y esos resultados aleatorios vienen siendo ya el momento de ingresar una operación. Al momento de ingresar una operación, nosotros realmente no podemos controlar lo que suceda con dicha operación. Y ahí es cuando justamente entra nuestro sistema. En nuestro sistema lo que nos está entregando y nos está diciendo es que probabilísticamente en una serie de operaciones nosotros podemos terminar saliendo en positivo y generar resultados ganadores. Pero realmente el resultado individual de una operación o de un conjunto de operaciones, realmente nosotros no podemos controlar el resultado de dichas operaciones. Simplemente lo que buscamos es tener una ventaja estadística al momento de estar haciendo trading y que a la larga podamos finalmente tener algún tipo de resultado beneficioso para nosotros. El querer controlarlo todo, como dice Aymar Douglas, nos provoca muchas veces frustración al no conseguir las cosas que esperamos o las expectativas que muchas veces tenemos.
You know, and I know there are a lot of viewers out there who may be experiencing frustration. In fact, I know there are definitely viewers who are experiencing frustration, but I'm not sure if they're making the connection that the reason because you know, they don't believe in this randomness principle where you can generate consistent returns by looking at the outcomes of their trades as random and unique. Right. They have to be able to view that as random and unique. You know, that's I think the big issue.
No, I know, and that's why we're here explaining it right now. You see, the frustration comes from from our expectations. It's from expecting something from our technical method it just can't do. Technical methods define and identify patterns in collective human behavior. Right. Now, the patterns definitely exist. They repeat themselves over and over again. The problem is the outcomes don't always correspond with the patterns on a trade-by-trade basis. So what I'm saying is that, yes, we have patterns, yes, and they repeat themselves over and over, and our minds just naturally think, well, I have a pattern that's consistent, I should have an outcome that's consistent with the pattern, right. And that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that there doesn't have to be a relationship between the outcome and the pattern.
Right. Bueno, otro tema también importante, o sea, la mayoría de los sistemas, bueno, por no decir todos, tienen cierto modelo de entrada en base a algún patrón, en base a una interpretación del mercado. Muchas veces ese setup o ese modelo de entrada se tiende a repetir, ¿cierto? En el tiempo. O sea, por ejemplo, en mi caso, yo opero un modelo de entrada y ese modelo de entrada es el que constantemente estoy buscando en el mercado. Pero eso, el buscar siempre el mismo modelo de entrada no nos asegura o no significa de que necesariamente se tiene que repetir el mismo resultado o de que necesariamente se tiene que dar el mismo resultado con ese patrón en específico que estamos operando. De ahí viene el resultado justamente aleatorio.
So, and if the last trade was a winner, right. This trade, even if the charts are the same, right. Even if we've got the same exact signal, the same looking chart, there's no guarantee that this trade is going to be the exact same as the past one.
Exactly. In other words, this trade, the trade I'm in right now, could turn out to be a winner, and does that mean that the next trade's going to be a winner? Absolutely not. This trade I'm in right now could end up being a loser, and does that mean that the next trade is going to be a loser? No, absolutely not.
Yeah. This is interesting. I mean, I'm trying to, for us up here, you know, the goal, the main goal is obviously to take these concepts and reduce them down to the most simple of terms. So, you know, let's again back up here for a second. There are traders out there using WiseTrade every single day. They're getting the same exact patterns, okay? But what you're saying is even though the specific criteria is being used to identify the pattern, okay, for each signal, same criteria, same formula, same everything.
Right. The chart pattern can look exactly the same. Everything.
Right. The outcomes to each signal have no relationship to one another.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying. That there's a random distribution between wins and losses over any sequence of trades that you might look at. And so, you know, and again, this is a very difficult concept to grasp, but it's really the traders who have grasped it, let's say, and learn how to think in what I call probabilities. Okay. They're the ones that don't experience the same kind of, you know, the same kind of emotional trauma that the typical trader does because they're expecting something that just may not happen. So for an example, if this trade's a winner based on this particular trade I'm in right now, based on the exact same criteria that, you know, or let's say I'm in a trade right now, or I'm getting into a trade right now, and the exact same criteria exists in the market that did the last time, I'm going to naturally expect it to be a winner if it was a winner the last time, or I probably will naturally expect it to be a loser if it was a loser maybe the last time, or we had 2 or 3 losers in a row.
And this could be a source of frustration for traders.
Oh, absolutely. In other words, and that's exactly what happens. It is a source of frustration, because if I'm expecting it to be a winner and it turns out to be a loser, I'm going to be frustrated. Not only going to be frustrated, I'm going to be disappointed, and I may even feel betrayed, depending on how much kind of energy that I put into the idea that the trade is going to be right.
Well, how do we get over that? I mean, how does a trader take,
Bueno, acá comentaron algo súper importante también de los resultados aleatorios, o sea que no necesariamente la secuencia de operaciones tienen que ser ganadora, 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 sino que pueden ser ganadoras, perdedora, 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 ganadora, ganadora, perdedora, 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 y básicamente los resultados son aleatorios. Entonces un trader, digamos, profesional, o que ha entendido, digamos, el tema de las probabilidades, entiende justamente esto, entiende que la secuencia de las operaciones, tanto ganadoras como perdedoras, terminan siendo al final aleatorias. Entonces es algo que el trader no puede controlar, y entiende que no necesariamente por tener una operación ganadora la siguiente también tiene que ser ganadora, y es algo también contrario a lo que la mayoría de las personas normalmente les sucede, que es tener una operación ganadora y pensar que si se está presentando el mismo patrón, esa operación también tiene que resultar ganadora, porque es el mismo patrón. Y cuando una operación sale ganadora y termina siendo, o sea, cuando una operación esperamos que sea ganadora y termina siendo una operación perdedora, ahí es cuando nos frustramos, y ahí es cuando aparecen muchas cosas que ustedes ya saben de memoria, me imagino, a esta altura. Continuamos.
Okay, so I've got all the things right. I've got my charts lined up. I've done everything I was supposed to do. How does the trader at least begin to accept these sorts of things, or how do they begin to remedy these issues?
Well, we kind of have to get into the nuts and bolts of this, of just exactly how the markets work, because I think that one of the big problems, one of the reasons why people have such a difficult time with this, is because their initial exposure to the markets themselves is through electronics.
Right.
In other words, there's through electronics, there's a real disconnect between what you're actually participating in and what's causing you to want to participate in the first place. In other words, markets started as exchanges, right. And there were and so when you traded at an exchange, so you know that all prices are people generated events.
Correct.
They are, and see, this is what people have to take into consideration. Everything happens because of what people believe. When you look at the nature of trading and break it down to its simplest components, what you have is everyone trying to do the same thing. There is no possible way that any of us can make money as traders unless we can buy low and sell high, or sell high and buy low.
Correct.
Is there any other way, Jared?
No.
No other way.
In every market.
In every market. So basically, everyone's trying to do the same thing, are they not?
Yes.
Everyone is doing the same things. Now, the reason why we have price movement is because everyone has a different idea about what is high and what is low. Okay,
right.
So now I get exposed to a technical method. Now, what does this technical method do? And this is the relationship that people need to grasp. If they grasp this relationship, then they can grasp this idea that you can take the same set of criteria and end up with random results. And it's this. It's like what people realized years ago is that you can take data points. In other words, data points meaning what you're doing is you're translating the human behavior, the human belief in if I'm going to buy
into something visual.
What's that? No, it doesn't have to be visual, but it's like it could be. Yeah, it started out being visual. It started out being chart patterns based on bar charts. But what you do is that if I'm gonna buy, it's because right now, let's say the last price is 10, and I put in an order to buy something at 10, okay? It's because I believe that the market's going to go to 11, or it's going to go to 12. Certainly if I thought or I believed it was going to go to 9, I would wait, would I not?
Correct.
So the reason why I'm buying at 10 is because that's what I believe. In other words, all price movement is based on people's belief about what's going to happen in the future.
Now you said to me in a conversation we had yesterday, obviously we as individual traders are not large enough in our...
Muy importante eso también que acaba de comentar, o sea, básicamente todo lo que hacemos nosotros con el trading es netamente especulativo, en el sentido de que estamos buscando predecir obviamente lo que pueda pasar a futuro. Entonces, en base a nuestro análisis y en base al mercado en general, la institución y todo eso, Eh, el mercado básicamente se va moviendo así, tanto institucionalmente como para traders minoristas, o sea, en la especulación, en lo que uno cree también que puede suceder o que puede llegar a pasar. Es interesante este punto siempre para analizarlo y tenerse a echarle una miradita.
Our accounts to move the market.
Exactly. And
Okay.
so this is the next connection that people have to make, is that since all price movement is based on people's conviction or belief about the future, how do prices actually move? For an example, when you put in an order or I put in an order, I don't trade at a level where I can actually move prices. But what the typical screen-based trader doesn't understand is that there are thousands of traders out there who do move prices, and that it is their intention to move prices. Or you can have a large group of traders coming into the market and then cause prices to move. But what actually has to happen for prices to move is that if the last price of something is 10, for the market to actually move to 11, all the offers have to be taken out, meaning that, or move to 12, all the offers at 11 have to be taken out. So in other words, people who are trying to sell at 11, they have to get their orders filled before it can get to 12. Right. Well, for someone to actually bid it to 11 or bid it to 12, they are doing the exact opposite, and this is really critical. They are doing the exact opposite in that moment of what it takes to be successful. Okay. They're not buying low, they're buying high. They're buying high relative to the last price. Or buying higher relative to the last price.
So how does understanding this concept, how does understanding what moves the markets help our traders to take it to the next level? Is this the first step for them getting control and understanding how the market's working?
They definitely have to understand. They have to understand how prices move, because when they understand how prices move, then they'll understand how their technical method relates to this movement. Because what technical methods do, whether it's a visual pattern or moving averages or any wise trade or whatever, you're using mathematical formulas. Okay? You're taking data points. In other words, you're taking what people believe about the future, transforming them or transposing them into a data point. As a price over time, okay, or with volume. There's any
or a
number.
Fresh cross.
Yeah, there's any number. That's what it ends up being, is a fresh cross. But I'm talking about the actual mathematical formula that makes the fresh cross. Okay. So there are any number of variables that go into this equation. Now, what people have found is that, and this is here. What people have found is that using these data points into certain types of mathematical equations, you can find patterns in collective human behavior. And what these patterns mean is this: is that when this set of criteria, okay, is present in the market, that there is simply a higher probability than not. In other words, there's a higher probability, or what I'm going to call an edge, a higher probability of one thing happening over another, that other people are actually going to come into the market and bid it higher from here or offer it lower from here. There's just, in other words, when the pattern is present, this collective pattern is present, it will repeat itself. But the problem is that it repeats itself on a random basis, because even though the actual mathematical criteria is exactly correct or exactly the same,
mathematical models can't predict human beings.
That's right. Mathematical models can't predict who the actual individuals who are going to come into the market and actually do it. In other words, it takes someone to do it. When you put on a trade, if you're not going to make your trade a winner by bidding the market, if you bought something by bidding the market,
using all of my money,
using all your money if you bought something at 10, you could.
Claro, acá básicamente lo que están comentando ellos es que, claro, si un patrón se está repitiendo y que si un patrón se presenta, digamos, de forma colectiva, nada asegura tampoco que ese patrón entregue un resultado como tal. Ahí es donde entra la aleatoriedad también del trading, la aleatoriedad también de este negocio, de que por más que se presenten ciertos patrones que quizás puedan ver muchas personas, eso no asegura nada tampoco.
You could actually wipe out all the offers and bid it to 11 or bid it to 12 or bid it to 13. Now, if the price is at 13, all the trades that you put on at 10 are winners, right?
Yeah, but I still bought it at 11 and 12.
Yeah, but you're averaging up. But the point is, all the trades that you put on were winners. You actually made yourself a winner.
That's correct.
But what I'm saying is that when you don't trade at that level, we are actually obliged to other traders to come in to buy something at a worse price than what we thought was low to make us winners.
So what you're saying is most of us out there are dependent upon someone else to move the market for us. We're trying to identify that pattern, obviously using the Wise Trade software to find.
Correcto. Acá están tocando un tema súper importante que viene siendo cuando nosotros identificamos una entrada, cuando nosotros identificamos que se está presentando nuestro setup. Claro, nosotros realmente identificamos el setup, identificamos la oportunidad, metemos la operación, pero de ahí, ¿qué sucede? ¿Cierto? Ingresamos a la operación, pero ¿por qué el mercado se mueve? Detrás, obviamente, de eso están las instituciones y está el gran volumen dentro de un mercado, que es lo que finalmente hace que el mercado se termine moviendo. Entonces, como ellos nombran acá, si bien nosotros identificamos un patrón para encontrar alguna entrada en base a nuestro setup, dependemos sí o sí de terceros para que finalmente el precio se vaya moviendo. Dependemos de la liquidez, dependemos del volumen en el mercado para que finalmente el precio se vaya moviendo. Entonces, al fin y al cabo, nosotros identificamos los patrones, metemos la operación, pero al final del día entra el factor que no podemos controlar, es si el precio se va a mover a nuestro favor o no se va a mover a nuestro favor. Bueno, traders, esta es el final de lo que es el video. Esperen lo que es la parte número 2. Vamos a estar revisando lo que es la segunda parte de esta entrevista. Recuerden, si este contenido les gusta, déjenme un comentario comentando si les agrada. Dejen un like y apoyen lo que es este contenido. Nos estamos viendo en una próxima oportunidad. Que estén bien. Chao, chao.